But when I pulled up the faders, 16 tracks, it was Earth, Wind, and Fire. Some songs that had never, it was like trumpets and like 16 tracks would just melt your, like, I was like, oh man, this is something big. And then I talked to her and she said he was the clav player for some band. And she said it was like a Earth, Wind, and something.
Clavinet.
She wasn't even sure. She wasn't even sure. She wasn't even sure. And I mean, I called other engineers and I was like, guys, and just pulling the faders up, no mixing. It was ready. It was good.
Something in the water taught me how to crawl. Something in the water taught me how to fall.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Something in the Water podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sean Clark.
And I'm Uncle Dave Griffin. Glad that y'all are with us, and glad that y'all are with us.
Glad to be here.
This is another kinfolk episode, folks. My first and second cousin. My first cousin, Tim Thrift, and his son, Will Thrift. Glad to have y'all.
Glad to be here.
Nice to be here.
Like I said this time last year, I'm glad to be here now because last October, I was coming out of neck surgery and looked online, and there you were in the hospital, I was in the hospital, and your brother was in the hospital all at the same time.
Right.
So I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I am too. Yeah, 2020 was not kind to everybody in the world with that pandemic going on and everything, but we ended up having our most major health issues in the month of October. Of 2020, but yeah, we're proud to be here now, and glad to have y'all.
What was wrong with you now?
I had to have 3 vertebrae replaced in my neck.
Oh wow, that don't sound easy.
It was not fun, and I had to wear a neck brace for 3 months, 24/7 after that.
Yeah.
Went in the hospital one day at lunch, and the next day at lunch, I was sitting at my table at home. They did the surgery and sent me home.
Wow.
Because of the pandemic and all that.
And then didn't you have to not do certain things for a long time?
Yeah, for a long time.
Speak?
Yeah. Well, you had to learn how to swallow again because they have to go in the front and move your esophagus and all out of the way. So you have to learn how to swallow again. And I still have trouble swallowing some foods, but it took about, it'll be a year the 28th, and I'm getting better all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. That sounds wild to go through that.
Yes.
Put some cadaver bones in my neck.
Some cadaver bones.
Yep.
Somebody else's?
Somebody else's. Yep.
You don't know who you got carrying around with you?
I don't know.
You ever have any bad dreams?
No, but my wife threatens if I've got better dancing skills or something.
Okay. And you can tell her, it's all in the neck. Well, we go back a long ways now. Me and Tim were born in 1953. Let's see, your birthday is yet to come this year.
December the 27th, and you've just had yours.
And your birthday
December 24th.
24th.
Yeah.
Okay. Will?
March 21st.
March 21st. You're down there with Megan.
1980.
Yes.
Megan my daughter was born March 12th. So me and Tim was born in the great year 1953, and we were like that right there, cousins, growing up. Y'all were always, you did have a house here in Waycross for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, the Griffin side of the family we all went to church together, your dad and my mom and Aunt Tid and all. We all went to church together, grew up together, did vacations together.
Easter egg hunts. Yeah. We'd always visit everybody's house, and we stayed. We had a good family, good upbringing, and in Waycross in the 50s and 60s was idyllic. It's not so much now. I mean, it's like small towns across America now. It's been the exodus of downtown business into the malls and the bigger stores, outskirts of the city, kind of killed the downtown. Some places have managed to revitalize it.
And that I really admire where I live now in North Carolina, in a little town called Waynesville.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people it's like going back in the 50s and 60s. The downtown is still very vibrant. You know, they have a huge Christmas parade every year, and it's just like going back in time.
I tell y'all don't know what you missed. Really, Waycross. It was just unbelievable back in those days. We had parking meters in front of every space downtown, you know. And
I saw someone put some 1940s footage
I saw
on
that
Waycross, and it looks crazy.
Crazy,
I mean, just bustling.
Oh, yeah.
People walking the street. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I
And
think
you could
Katie's shared it or something.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Dave, even in the 70s, 72, 71, when you graduated, and 73,
still going strong.
when I worked at the TV studio down there, there was still, the businesses were crazy.
Probably not until about the 80s did you start seeing it slow down.
Right.
We had it all down there, though. And speaking of that, I got my popcorn. You walked in the Caution Light Media house, and you can't resist the irresistible smell. It like a walk in the door and smell that. It's a homemade popcorn machine, an authentic. It smells like the Lyric Theater in 1965 during Elvis Presley's "Girls, Girls, Girls."
And our Uncle Bo at the Ritz Theater.
Yeah, our Uncle Clyde Tootin, Uncle Bo, was Daddy's uncle,
He was the
our
man.
great uncle, and he managed the Ritz Theater here in Waycross, and we used to get in for probably next to nothing. And I can remember going to the concession stand there, and they'd give us a box lid, a cardboard box lid full of popcorn, and we'd carry it to our seats. All of us cousins would go usually. I remember one time we was all there watching that John Wayne movie, Hatari.
Yep.
The old African, where they were over in Africa riding in jeeps and capturing rhinoceroses and
Animals for zoos.
yeah. And Tim, I guess we were probably about 8 or 9, and we was all strung out in a row there, all of the cousins, and it showed a scene there where somebody was looking through binoculars at this vast savanna in Africa, and you couldn't see nothing but heat waves kind of rippling across there, and they was looking for a rhinoceros, and Tim hollers out, "I see him." And we all said, "No, you don't. You can't see him." We had some good times, though. We went on family vacations together and all. And then fast forward into the future, and you had twins.
Had twins,
Yes.
boy and girl, Will and his sister Kathy, 1980.
1980.
They were had to spend 6 months in the hospital in Savannah. They were born in Savannah. They flew us, the military, a National Guard helicopter, picked us up and flew us over there. And
Was y'all preemies?
yep,
Y'all were?
Oh, big.
2 pounds and 11 ounces. They
Dang, y'all. Connor was preemie. He was 2 pounds, 0.06.
yeah
So y'all had 2 pounds 11?
yeah.
Yeah.
2 pounds
Stayed in
11.
the hospital over there for 6 weeks before we could bring them home.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't
But
remember,
look
I
at
don't
'em
remember
now.
any of that.
They always
that was
turn
tiny.
out.
How do you feel about that, Will?
Well, the helicopter ride was scary, but, but I was okay. I guess I was okay.
How's Kathy doing now?
She's doing good. She's teaching 2nd grade in Toccoa, Georgia.
Toccoa?
Yeah. So they're all him. He's in Atlanta. She's in Toccoa, and Beth's son Adam is in Tennessee. So they're all pretty close to us.
Yeah. And now y'all live in Waynesville, North Carolina, which is right over the Georgia line?
No, it's near. It's over near Maggie Valley in Asheville. We're
okay.
25 miles west of Asheville, which is a great
yeah.
city to go visit. It's talking about the music scene over there, and it's just a great city.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty town.
Yep.
Well,
You had something, so.
yep. I was just fixing to say there's another connection at work here too, besides just being kin.
Yeah, me and Will were in a band together called Gravy.
Yes, yes.
That was the only band y'all were in together.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
when did that come about?
It had to be 98 or 99. Or no, yeah, 99 at least, right?
I know we were doing it in 98.
Well, who played at the first Graham Parsons thing in the backyard? Was that Gravy?
Yeah, me.
That would have been 98.
It was
then.
on your patio.
Yeah, it would have been November 98. Yeah.
And we hadn't been together that long.
That was our first gig, I think. Was
Really?
it?
Yeah.
Seems like it was the first time we
Yeah.
played in front of anybody.
It was.
We practiced every day or whatever. You know?
We practiced a lot as that band. We really did
But
practice.
y'all had both played with other bands before then, right?
Yeah.
And I was in a band with John Tonge and Jared Perkins. And we called Crosstown, and we did covers, but we did do a couple of originals, and we recorded in a studio in Brunswick. And you may know the guy. There was one guy recording downtown,
Crawford Perkins.
and he recorded our demo.
He owns Soclo Guitar Gallery now in Brunswick.
Very, very cool.
They build some nice guitars.
Nice. And then I know you from previous, like we ran into each other when you were making T-shirts at that Grateful Dead reunion, right? Were you traveling around with Russell? Was that, or you were traveling?
Where's this, at Live Oak?
Yeah, Live Oak.
No, I met him out here at Twin Oaks. He was out there selling some T-shirts for Bluegrass Jam out there. And I had a tie-dye on, and he's like, "Hey, where'd you get that tie-dye?" I said, "I made it." He said, "Can you make me some?" I said, "Sure." And so then I made him some or whatever and sent them to him. He sent me the shirts. I sent them back tie-dyed, I guess. And then he's like, he would get me to come, since I knew how to silk screen and stuff, he silk screens on the spot in his little covered wagon. And when he would go to Live Oak, I would go help him or whatever. But he traveled all up and down. He even sold T-shirts at Woodstock.
Wow.
But,
Do you remember the first?
don't remember
I
that.
came over to your house with that T-shirt on when Graham at a family reunion at Aunt Tid's. Graham said, "Hey, you should come jam at Sean's house." And I didn't know it was the same guy. And when I had that shirt on, and Sean, you remember we connected then. He was like, "I made that shirt."
I don't remember that, but that's cool.
That's how we got to, and that was when you were playing. Your main gig was you had the Telecaster through the Leslie at that time. That was your.
Wah pedal, Leslie cabinet.
Didn't we get the
y'all
wah-wah?
bought me the
We
wah.
bought you the wah pedal for your birthday
That's
present.
right.
And
That was sweet.
in our Little Nights run, you remember we got to test that out.
Yeah.
We had hours to jam as the house band on the rock night. So, man, those are some fun gigs though. And yeah.
Yeah. We got some pictures from them days somewhere.
The Gravy days.
The Gravy days.
Gravy Days pictures.
You had these, Sean?
I sent him some. I was just scouring the internet today trying to find what I could find.
Nice.
I know we showed a few the night that Graham was on. We had some.
This might be some of the same ones, but a couple from the practice place where we did over in Jesse's studio.
Yeah. Nice.
I couldn't find the art to the first album we made.
I have it. I have a hard copy of that somewhere in a box. I know. I want to say I sent Connor some artwork because he wanted to see it. This was before he started playing with you. He had texted me and said, can I get all the old Gravy stuff? And I sent it to him once, but I think he might have it. But do you remember putting that piece of art together on the computer? And it was before Photoshop or...
I had got all these boxes of Playboys from the 70s and 50s or all these vintage Playboys from a flea market, and we cut them up like that, Coke ads out of them, and we made a collage or whatever.
It was pretty cool. I mean, I still like it to this
No, I was thinking it was Tim, but it was Gary that came over and took some pictures of us when we painted our
Oh
face.
yeah.
My wife took some pictures of you out at some clay pits or something over
Oh,
in Blackshare.
yeah.
Remember where there was a big wall of dirt out there?
Oh
Remember that?
yeah.
I do remember that. I don't have any of those photos, but
Yeah, there you go.
This is our
yeah.
Hickory Wind studio.
Yep.
that was when we took the glass out. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Because we were a so booth then. You remember we took the glass out, and that's when we were.
I forgot that
What
that booth.
drum booth?
Yeah, over there.
Didn't he take it out completely?
Yeah, it's out completely now.
But yeah, that's an early.
Those were
That's
the
a
days.
nice.
Is that the shirt that Sean sold you?
That is the shirt.
That is
you
the
sold me.
shirt.
That's the shirt.
There's the Leslie behind me, I think.
I like that beer on top of the amp. Nice. And Jesse's playing that heart key. Do you remember that bass he had? That was like it looked like the Prince symbol or something.
Yeah. Man, he's had so many basses. It's crazy.
And Graham is in the booth with his setup in there. That's a great one right there.
Those were the days. Those were good times.
That might have been during
There's another one.
the 8. We were recording the 8-ats. I think at that.
I know that's around the time that we played at the gazebo, because that's when I had those pants.
They look like parachute.
Yeah. I was dating a girl that bought them for me.
What-
I don't know what's that got to do with anything. But
Oh, that's a classic.
yeah.
Oh,
that's,
nice.
modern day.
That-
This is your wife,
that's
Kelly, and
that's a crew right there.
little girl, Lucy.
Lucy.
Well, that's who if I do any kind of mixing, I throw it to Kelly, and I don't tell her anything about it, and she's my ears to say, yeah, this is you're not good, or this, or I hear something weird, and I have to go back to the drum board. But she's my listener, and then Lucy just bangs on my drums.
Cute.
Us and Eddie.
Well, that was after.
This is after Gravy. I just found that, and I figured, why
Told,
not?
us and Eddie played one of the Grand Parsons too.
Yeah, and I think Dave, I remember you. You remember we did that Halloween show at the Ritz where we did a Pink Floyd. We showed Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon before we started, and you were working at Crosstown across the street, and we had our gig at night, a Halloween thing. This was during us and Eddie,
Oh, okay.
and Dave walked over, and I remember you were the only one really in the audience. You watched the Pink Floyd thing, and then we were playing way later, and nobody came really, but we had the whole Ritz, and we had those a guy Geron. You remember Geron? He had those old vintage
Oil lights.
that he was
Like
working
lava
on
lamps.
there, and so that's kind of how that was going. But the audience wasn't there. We didn't. I mean, this is pre-internet days, but it was we tried it, but
Yeah. And that's
All right,
Jesse.
you, Jesse, and Jamie.
Jamie Moore, Jesse Heron.
Okay,
I like Jesse's pose in that one.
Yeah.
cool.
It's like a rap album about to hit.
It does. It really does. I don't know what's going on with them glasses, but
So who was Eddie?
me, because my middle name's Edward, so that's what it was supposed to be. But we had so many bad names that, and then we would add a member like Justin Minshew or somebody would come in, and we'd call it something else, and we'd play some Pecan Fest, and then kind of. We had one little EP we cut, and there's some of those out there, and it had 3 songs on it, but good luck. I don't know if you can find those, but oh, nice.
Yeah,
That's,
that's
for
one of
me and
the.
Is that probably Swamp Town?
That was the one that
might have been Swamp Town.
No, that was
that was the one that
Marty
Stewart.
Marty Stewart
was there.
played.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Graham
Will
Parsons
came
guitar
down
pool.
for that.
Me and Ty, we go back.
Yeah, you've recorded a lot of their Barefoot Hookers albums.
Yeah, we did. You see, you look at the back of Harvest, the album, and you see they're recording in a barn. And so we had this idea, let's rent a barn in Madison and do it. And we did it for the Beer Drinking Gospel Revival album. And what you don't see on the record looks fun, But we set up and we didn't realize, okay, the roof leaks. It's cold. There's animals living in here. There's a major train track coming by, and so it was cool. But the heartfelt you on that record was for real. We were cold, but it was fun making it in a barn in Madison. That was really something to do. And I think we only had like our most expensive mic might have been an SM7. That was our kind of go-to any mic. And if this might date us, but we were using Empowered Pro Tools, which was before M Audio for us. I mean, it was barely functioning, but we made it happen. And, but that was a fun record. Ty probably, he actually burned up an amp doing the volume was so loud, and he was trying to do a lead, and he was just blazing it, and smoke came out the back, and he goes, man, that was so cool. And I was like, man, the take, we didn't keep the take. It wasn't even the keeper. And he's like, we got to keep, man. Smoke was coming out of the back. And so I think we made something work, but it was pretty classic Ty.
Can you make that picture a little bigger? Any bigger? I was trying to see what that was going on back there.
There you are, Dave.
Yeah, that's James Cock in the red shirt right there. But
Yep.
is that a chair they're working on? Oh well, yeah. That's my old neighbor,
That's about the last time he
James
came over.
Cock. They must be trying to fix a recliner or something. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that was a good year, dude.
Yep.
Okay, next.
Okay, so this is after the barn, after the Barefoot Hookers, the barn, we mixed it down in this other barn, which was Mark Deerfield. He played in Ty's band. He was a guitar player. And you can see some of the setup, the mix we were using back there, and then some of those preamps we were using. But this was we were doing a GoFundMe for something, I guess,
And this is when you were into just doing the recording part. You were not playing anymore, right?
No, I did. Well, I did play after this record. They needed somebody to open up for the Dirty Dozen brass band at Adfest, and I knew the record because I'd been mixing it, and so I did fill in for them and played it on drums, and it was pretty cool. It was a cool gig. But me and Mark have been recently doing some new songs together. He's in Madison, and so he's got a whole bunch of new songs that me and him and John Tondra are trying to. We all have songs we're trying to throw at each other, but we just got to get together. We haven't really. Everybody has other projects, but that was a fun record to make.
Heck yeah.
That's a nice pose there.
This one right
Stadium.
Oh,
That's the stadium, Memorial
okay.
Stadium.
Gibson.
Now this
Gravy.
photo, yes.
That's 4th of July.
Yep.
This is. Do you remember the party at my house right down the street that we had, like Jimi Hendrix playing Star Spangled Banner right after?
Oh, before?
Or was it before? It was
I don't
might
know.
be during it. Like we started the party, came to this, and then right back down.
I don't remember that, but that's
Somebody
I
When you
do
lived
now.
down right,
when I was
right
living on
near
that,
here.
yeah,
That
in
Adobe
that
house.
castle down here.
Adobe house.
Who's that on bass?
Jonathan
Gibson.
Gibson. And his daddy might have been doing the sound that
He
night.
was. Madison was doing the sound.
And he had those big old speakers on stands. And didn't me and you help him break it down, Sean?
I think so.
There was some rule or something. Me and Sean were like, yeah, we'll help you. And we didn't realize it was like on top of scaffolding. And
I think everybody else left, and we were there,
it
like
was me
working.
and you just making the sausage, man. But that's a great one.
That's
So
Eva
Eva-
Rozier, Graham Griffin, Jonathan Gibson, Will on the drums.
You remember that? You remember that 18 bass cabinet? Jonathan used to travel with that. That's an 18.
Oh,
if you
yeah.
could look at that bass amp, that's an 18 speaker, and that thing would win all the time.
Yeah. Okay, we had Graham on, and we were talking about playing in Athens. One of the times we played Tasty World, he said it was with Jonathan, and you and Jonathan got into a big argument.
I knew this was. I'm so glad you brought this up. because I didn't
And
watch
I was like, I don't remember that. And I was like, those two were
Yeah.
fighting? That don't
Me
make
and
any sense.
Jonathan.
It was always me and Graham.
Yeah,
or-
it was always Sean and Graham. But me and Jonathan we were in another band. We played another cover band, but we were super close. But to give Graham some credit, we were arguing that night, and it wasn't Tasty World. It was Allen's bar. Allen's. There was a bar.
I don't even remember.
Yeah, there's a bar
Allen's.
called Allen's, and it was just kind of a dive bar, but they would let us play, and we could play all night. We did play Tasty World. There's another story about that one. But in Allen's, we were playing, and we would go into jams, and Graham would walk off the stage. And that was just the thing. If you came to our show, you knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how it works.
Come back an hour later.
Come back an hour later, and he
We
might
wouldn't have any more tab.
Yep. And
We'd owe them money.
and he may be facing the crowd the whole set, or he may turn around and face his back to the crowd the whole set. That could be just depends on the moment.
Jim Morrison.
That's right.
Baby Morrison.
That's right. And so anyway, this night, the reason we were arguing, I'm not sure we wouldn't have fought. I don't think we would have fought. We were strongly. He had to get back to Waycross because he was in school or something. There was something. And this is 2 or 3 a.m. So I'm kind of put it in perspective. We were jamming. The crowd was loving it.
And he was ready.
He was ready to go. He was looking over at me saying like, I got to go. And I'm like, no, don't. And we did get in each other's face, but it wasn't a fist fight. But I think we just ended and he went. I mean, right. I think the gig fizzled out and we took it.
And Graham said that he thinks that was Jonathan's last gig with us.
That definitely was. I think that was his last gig because I think we came to the conclusion that we should have finished the gig because it was such a thing. It was some argument.
I can't even remember Allen's.
I don't remember who called him, or I felt like he had other things he was doing.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm out, guys. So I think maybe that you have to ask him. So you might want to put it out to Jonathan to see what he has.
We need to have him on. We'll have the whole story.
Yes, it's something like that. But
Each version.
Yeah.
but we did play Tasty World. Do you remember that show at Tasty World? And
I remember that. Yeah.
I
don't remember everything
It
about
was
it, but-
just. You remember we had our little slot, and that guy Murphy, he was like, "I'm going to pay you guys," and it was packed in there, and we rocked the show. And then we went to the bar afterwards, and we were like, "Hey, we're ready." He's like, "He said, here you go, man. I got $20." Do you remember that? And we were like, "What?" He's like, "Here's some gas money."
Yeah, it was nothing.
It was nothing, and we were like, "What, man?" We drove all the way from Waycross, but we did get the next day or two. The flagpole put a review out, and do you remember? And it said, "Gravy." It said, "Gravy sounds like Iggy and the Stooges. Loved them. Can't wait to see them again." And that was our last time we ever played.
Yeah.
But we got a good write up in the
Good
flagpole. Somebody was there, but they had that big metal sign, that like High Life sign. I remember buzzing, stuff just coming off of that thing. But that was a good.
Yeah.
That was a good.
We
show.
thought we were really doing it at that point.
Yeah, we thought we were a gig in Athens was.
Yeah.
And then we go to a radio station to give them our CD. I think me, you, and John Tonge went to UGA broadcasting school. We knew somebody, or Ty helped us get in, and we gave a DJ our record. Now, did it get?
Yeah.
I don't think it ever got played, but we did try.
We tried.
Well, I'm kind of interested. How did you start playing drums? I mean, when did that come about? Was it through school or no?
So in my neighborhood, so I was kind of I watched these guys with Junior, and growing up.
Well, let's talk about that first. Just you weren't a musician,
Right.
when we were growing up.
Right. And I went to radio and TV broadcasting school in Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
And luckily, I was planning on going into radio broadcasting, but thank goodness I didn't, because not too long after that, it kind of crashed having DJs. It was everything was automated.
Mm-hmm.
But when I came back to Waycross, I was working at ware milling at a feed mill. My grandfather got me a job there while I was trying to find what I wanted. And Waycross, believe it or not, had a TV station, a public TV station at that time that kind of never made it a commercial station. And the reason they had it is because, if you remember growing up, we could not get anything on TV. We had 3 channels, and you had to hold your antenna just
You
right.
had to get it just right
So
to
the
get Channel 4.
Waycross Cable Company came into existence in 1963, and 95% of the population of Ware County was on Waycross Cable. So they said, well, let's just have a TV studio too. Well, that didn't pan out, and it went bankrupt. And educational agency here in town, the Waycross Cable Company donated it to them as a tax write-off. Mm-hmm. And this lady wrote a 3-year federal grant to use it for educational purposes. Mm. And I just happened to be in town at the time it started. So I went and somebody called me said, go apply for a job down at the TV station. So, and it was still in the back of the Waycross Cable Company. You could drive around back and go inside. And so I got a job as a cameraman to begin with, and then went to the technical school and got my FCC license and became assistant engineer. And that's where I met Bruce Wood, who is a drummer. And
at the TV station?
At the TV station. That's where I met him. He was already through the technical school. So just hanging around with him, you came down and we recorded some of your originals in the studio. You and Joe Shear had just moved to town because Jack Brinkley had a band called Pack House.
That's right.
And it was Joe and Bruce was playing drums. Ricky Alderman, I think, was keyboard. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how you got into the mix with
yeah, I had a band called Sweetbriar at the time with Billy Ray Heron, and then we merged. With Joe and Ricky came into our band.
Right. And about that, I was doing sound for, I forgot about this when I was talking to you yesterday, a group called Spellbound, which...
Yeah, Spellbound.
After
Jim Hopkins?
Yep, Jim Hopkins and Joe was in that band, and Philip Walker and George Farr. And that was right after Sweetbriar, I guess. And then they that band
it was well after Sweetbriar because we had already gone on several years, played with Eddie Middleton, and that split up in 78. Right after that. Joe moved back.
Gotcha. That
and
was
formed
right after that.
Spellbound.
Right.
So around 78, 79.
And that lasted for a couple of years. And then Joey and Junior Adams, who were two of the original Bushmen from the 60s.
Mm-hmm. The Bushmen.
Yep, which was a very well-known band in the Southeast. Mm-hmm. Had a big write-up for opening up for the Rolling Stones at Georgia Southern College, and supposedly were liked way better than the Rolling Stones. Wow. And they moved to Atlanta. Johnny B got him he was their agent, and they were just on the cusp of making it big, and they had signed a contract with a recording company and went to New York and did some publicity photos, and the record company went bankrupt. Oh, so they had their own recording.
So close.
Yeah, and they had their own recording studio in Atlanta, lived in a house, and traveled all over the Southeast. But anyway, that kind of broke up. Joey went on to be a dentist. Yeah. One of the guitar players became a doctor.
Harry Aldridge
was a guitar player, and he tried to keep the band going. Joey and Junior had quit, and Tom Kennerly became a doctor. So about in 85 or 86, I guess, Joey and Junior decided, let's start the Bushmen back again. So they were going to call it the Bushman Brothers.
Yeah.
They didn't want to use their original name. So here's what they were going to do. They went to the recording studio, I think at Roy Crosby's, maybe in Alma, and got Bruce Wood, Tony Cason. I guess Junior must have played keyboards, and Joey played bass, and they made a recording that was their show. So they had a reel-to-reel recorder, and they would go to the gig, and Junior would be up there singing, and Joey would be playing bass. And the first gig they played, it was like in Fitzgerald, and Junior was a great storyteller. I mean, I heard so many stories about the old days of them playing. Yeah. But he said they pulled up there and that place was packed because it said "Return of the Bushmen." And so they were doing
two guys in a reel-to-reel.
And so they did a couple of gigs, and they had this guy operating the reel-to-reel for them. He'd stop it back between songs, and he had a little 8-channel mixer out there. And they were playing somewhere one night, and somebody kicked the plug out to the reel-to-reel recorder.
Oh, no.
And so that guy quit. He said, I'm not doing this anymore. And so Bruce and Joy were married to sisters, so they knew each other. So Bruce called me and said, Joy and Junior need somebody to do this. Will you come do it? And I said, well, I'll do it. So we did that a couple of times. And finally, Junior said, what in the heck are we doing? Why are we doing this? We need a band. So the guys that played on the record ended up going in the band. And
So that would have been Bruce and Tony?
Bruce and Tony Kaysen.
Okay.
And then there was a whole rotation of different people that came through that band. Joe played with them briefly.
I played bass with them one night in Statesboro.
That Joel Williams, who was the music
Joel
teacher at the
Williams,
college.
that's right.
At
Yeah,
the college, he was a
used to
keyboard
play
player
with
for a while. But we played. We were about like y'all were, playing every weekend, just about, And so this guy was probably
I was like 6.
6 or 7, and
So you were influenced by
I
all
would
that,
take
right?
it. I was take them to a lot of.
I was
gigs.
at their band practices. I was even watching Joey and Junior at the Shrimp Festival. Like Mr. Bruce Wood was. I mean, really why I got into the drums too was watching him, and he would take time with me and say, "Hey, come on, kid, bang on this."
Going to see y'all and John Smith when y'all were setting up one time.
Yeah, John Smith spent time.
But we
with
were
me.
at the Shrimp Festival.
I was
We
like
played
6
that
and
about
7.
3 years in a row, and Will went missing. He was 6 years old. Here we are panicking, thinking, and I'm back there at the mixer, and I had a video camera set up too, recording it. And so we stopped the police and told them, we're looking for this little guy. I went up there and told you could see me talking to Junior, telling him. And about 2 minutes later, I looked up on the stage, and there was Will beside the drums.
The floor tom. I was like right beside Bruce's floor tom. I was standing there, and like what I
Had
was.
you been there the whole time?
I had.
Yeah, he'd been there the whole time.
I was playing Mr. Bruce's drum, and he sat down, and they got ready to do sound check. I just kept standing there, and I was like, they're gonna let me just stand here. I just stood there the whole gig. And that was my head was right above the tom, and I was like, this is cool in front row. And at that same one.
This was when, your mom, what?
When I went to John Sebastian was opening, and my mom took me to the restroom in the library, and she said, I'm going to the restroom. You stay here, Will. And I did. I looked over, and some guy had headphones on, and he was playing a guitar. And so I ran to him. I was like, I still remember it. And I was like, how's it going? What you got? Why you got those in your ear? And he goes, do you want to hear? And he put it on, and he said, you can play my guitar. But my mom came out of the bathroom, and she said, I'm sorry, he's bothering you. And it was John Sebastian.
John Sebastian. Who was it? John Sebastian.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And he had put headphones on, let me just fram on his Martin.
And he was playing the Shrimp Festival.
Yeah.
He
John
played.
Sebastian.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then
great. I don't remember.
He
that.
said
That's when he was doing a solo act.
He asked me, and then my mom's like, well, I got a piece of paper. Will you sign it for Will? And so it was a receipt, and it says, I still have it. It says, good luck, ! John Sebastian. So
I'm trying to remember who else was, John Sebastian was one of the guys. We were, like y'all did Percy Sledge. We, Junior and them did them too. We over in Douglas. In fact, that was the last gig Junior did with us.
But, being around.
And then the other, after Joey and Junior quit, Joey quit first, and Junior hung on for a little while, and then he quit, and other people started filling in. Philip Walker came for a while. Bill McIntosh came in and played keyboards, and then Rock Johnson. I don't know if you knew him.
Yeah, I remember Rock.
Yeah, he came in as a lead singer and did a really good job. And Dave Hess, when Philip and Tony left for a while, and Dave Hess came in, and he was still coming and hearing some of that stuff.
I mean, we'd be at their practice space, and he would make us hook stuff up, and we didn't subconsciously, you don't know, but you're touching the cables, you're carrying gear, it's there, and then later on, in my neighborhood, everybody played guitar, right? Everybody had.
And you started out playing guitar.
I started out playing guitar. So I could learn the chords, and
they taught a class at high school 1 year guitar, and Charles Strickland did. And then the next summer is when you got the drums, because he worked at the high school.
Well, yeah, in my neighborhood, I was fortunate enough to be my neighbors. I had the Wilson brothers, Brandon and Brad Wilson, and Brad was in a band with Josh Kirkland. I think it was called Remedy at that time in like the 80s, and Brad Wilson was recording whole albums in his room. It was finished. It sounded, I couldn't believe, he handed me a tape and said, I'm playing everything. And I mean, I remember being like, wait, this is you playing, this is incredible. And he really showed me structure, like here's a verse and a chorus. I never saw that, as a 12-year-old, but 12 to 16. And but everybody played guitar way better than me in my neighborhood. They blew me away. And I was like, well, there's no drummers around here, so I'm going to save up.
You went and worked at the
all
school
summer,
system, yeah.
And I bought a drum set on the day I got my check. I went and bought it, and I just taught myself. And I played in a band with John Tonge and Jared Perkins, and for a long time. And we're just doing covers, your basic covers. And then Graham introduced me to Sean.
And then when did you decide that you wanted to be on the other side of, doing?
We were always kind of doing the sound, like me and Sean, or we didn't know enough to really.
We didn't know what we were doing.
We didn't know anything. Like we got sold a PA by Hubert Williams, and we were like, "Sir, can you sell us something?" He's like, "Oh, you need this and you need this," and we would just say, "Okay, sounds good." And we tried to patch that together the best we could, and our amps would be clipping the whole time.
You
and
bought one sound system from Paul Lee when he was.
I did. Well, my first one in the band previous was from Paul Lee at Clyde's.
Clyde's, yeah.
And at that moment, me and John Tonge, he said, if y'all go to Athens, look up my friend Ty. And this was like 5 years before I'd ever met Ty. And so like we said, sure, okay, guy. And as soon as we got to Athens, we found Ty, me and John, in 98. That was before Gravy.
Yeah.
So I got about like you did about when you said you had enough playing every weekend. Y'all were doing the same gigs we were down at M-Lines and places like that.
The Keepers
were, yeah. And
I quit in 89.
Yeah, that's probably about, I quit a little bit before that because what year did Granddad Griffin pass away? Do you remember?
I can't remember.
But anyway,
Probably 90s, early 90s.
Yeah. When he passed away, your dad or Aunt Tid called me one day and said, you need to come down to the bank to represent your mother because my mother had passed away and my dad was gone. And I said, what for? And she said, just come on down to the bank. And all of the other siblings were there. And when I got there, they were dividing up the money that he had in the bank that they had no idea he had. And I said, look, I don't want any of this. This was your father, and they said, nope, your mother was part of the family. So we want you and your brother and sister to have her share.
Okay.
So it wasn't a whole lot of money, but it was enough that I had always worked at the TV studio and taught video production at the high school. That's another story. They called me and I started doing that for 8 years. But I'd gotten a book, a magazine called Video Maker. And in the back of it, this guy he would sell you a video, a VHS tape to tell you what equipment you needed to buy and all that, and contracts on doing weddings.
Oh,
so
okay.
I bought this guy's video for like $39, and he sent you contracts. You could just change the name on them. So I did my first wedding for free. Just got a wireless microphone, one camera, and they liked it so much they paid me a little bit. And so then I started advertising a little bit and got to where I was doing weddings. And I told the band, you know what? This is a lot easier than going to the wedding and staying to 2 o'clock in the morning.
Took the money instead of
and I'm not splitting the money 6 ways. So I started doing weddings, and when I retired from the school system, I'd already started working on Jekyll Island, and it was like, man, it went gangbusters.
Yeah.
For 9 years, we did photos and videos at Jekyll Island every weekend. I mean, it was
Professional
a really good,
video and photography.
Yep.
That was y'all's name. Wasn't it?
yeah, we had a studio right downtown here, and we had a really good run for 12 years. And then digital came along for photography, and everybody was a photographer.
Yeah.
And so that kind of killed the photography end of it. I still did video for quite a while, doing weddings. And at Jekyll we became real good friends with the general manager over there because they, when we first started doing photography, I was already doing some video, and we went in and asked the girls that worked for people doing weddings that came in, and we said, what kind of photography do y'all have to show? And they said, let me show you. And they had one 8x10. And so I had just done a wedding for a girl I worked with. We got her to get her dress out and her husband, and we went over to the island and did a whole wedding album and handed it to the hotel, and they used that to show brides when they came in.
Yeah.
And they knew that having a videographer and a photographer together, that they didn't have to worry about are you going to get along or whatever. So that really worked out good with us. The girls could not recommend people. They told us they had a referral list, but they would. A bride's mother one time from Atlanta told us. I said, "How did you decide on us?" And she said, "Well, the girl gave me the referral list and said." I looked at her and said, "If this was your daughter, who would you hire?" And she said,
Number one.
I pointed to our name down there, and I thought, well, they can't refer us, but if they ask them, they,
Yeah.
because we did a couple of the girls that worked at the island too, their weddings. So we had a good gig there for 12 years.
So
And we retired. And
I was just going to say, around that time, us three were working down there. Either me and him at Crosstown, or I was at
and we were right next door there.
Oh, yeah.
sometimes I was at the either the city store or the furniture store me and my mom had. But
Yeah.
So you ended up following in your daddy's footsteps as far as that goes. You made the decision to go to that recording academy or whatever it was.
Recording Conservatory of Recording Arts in Arizona.
Okay.
I went there.
What year was that then?
2004.
Okay.
And then finished that. And then I'd always liked the Blues Brother movie since I was little. Still is the best musical ever. I mean, you can't look at that look at that record, right?
Yeah.
And so I said I'd like to go to Chicago, and I told the school, can you give me an interview? And I had 2 interviews in Chicago. So I before I finished school, I went to Chicago and interviewed, and I got one.
Tell him that this was December, and he was in Arizona.
Yeah, so I went from the desert straight to snow
With
that I
shorts.
never in shorts. I didn't know.
shorts.
Yeah, completely oblivious. Like, oh, it's below 0 today. It's
Had
like
to stop
what?
and get clothes at Walmart.
So I got the gig at Studio Chicago, in right off of downtown, and the thing about their internship was you're a second engineer. You're working. You have to do all the intern stuff like food orders, and you're cleaning the bathrooms.
Right.
But you're
Got to pay your dues.
but you're right in. They say, but we let you right in with engineers. And I was on the cusp of, we were still using tape machines, but they had just bought a brand new Pro Tools system at that time. And I had just gotten out of school where I just was certified in everything. And the older guys they were
Hesitant.
like, I don't want to. Yeah, they were like, you run the computer. I'm gonna run the board. So I got right into working with these guys who had, like, I'd work with all these guys who've been doing it for years, and I had to do tape transfers. Like, you start out doing, somebody bring a reel to reel in, and you would
Tell him the story about the one that you taped.
this old lady, this older lady came in and she said, "Here you go. I have a tape that was stored in my attic. It's my son was in some band. I'm not sure. Can you get it on? Can you just play it and give it to me?" Right. And so I looked at the tapes, and they were stored wrong. And if anybody, if you know anything about tape, it's like, if you store it wrong, you can bake them in an oven.
I'd never heard this tale, but it's true.
I think I heard about this. But
You can bake them in an oven to restore them?
Well, no.
Or to bring them back for one play or something?
For one play.
Okay.
One play. You have one chance to get it. Oof. And so we had an oven in the kitchen at Studio Chicago. And I told the owner, I was like, "Hey, man, I'm going to do this."
So how was the tape stored wrong?
It was stored wrong because it was stored in her attic in Chicago. So think about the season. It's hot, super, super cold, hot, super cold. It should have been,
it's just stored.
It should have been in climate control.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Like, or in a cellar that's climate control. But her son was no longer here. He had passed away. So she wanted the tape. So this was all stakes are on me. Yeah. I baked it at 250 for like 11 hours on one side, flipped it. And then I put it on the machine.
Did you use your oven mitts?
For how many hours?
Like 11 hours. Yeah, it's like this.
What?
It was flaking off. So it's like it kind of melts it back on. If this is
okay. It kind of melts it back.
So when you put it on, you better have everything on the Pro Tools side going. So I had it armed. I was ready. And the owner, I told him, he had to say, please come watch me. I want someone to see me do this, make sure. He's like, oh, you got it. Don't do it. And so I did it. And so it came off. But the tape machine itself was just gummed up. I mean, it was just, the tape was just gone. You can't get it back. So I had to like really clean the tape machine after that. I mean, real bad. It was the worst one I'd ever seen or done. But when I pulled up the faders, 16 tracks, it was Earth, Wind, and Fire. Some songs that had never, it was like trumpets and like 16 tracks would just melt your, like, I was like, oh man, this is something big. And then I talked to her and she said he was the clav player for some band. And she said it was like a Earth, Wind, and something.
The clavinet.
She wasn't even sure. She wasn't even sure. She wasn't even sure. And I called other engineers in. I was like, guys, and just pulling the faders up, no mixing. It was ready. It was good. And so I had it for her. And basically I set the tape under a chair, and it's kind of even crazier. It took 2 years for her to come back, and she came back 2 years later, and she was like, "I've got enough money to," because it probably cost her about $400 for me to do that.
Yeah,
as because it's a one off. She got it, and she heard it, and she loved it, but there was like some group walla stuff. You know what group walla is? Like when you're like if you have a song and there's a crowd in the studio, hey man, there's whistles. Yeah. There was some, and I wasn't sure if it was her grandson, but someone, you can say, can you say anything? Yeah. You can talk about drugs or whatever. Yeah. There's someone, hey man, pass that white shit, man. Like, pass that white stuff. Yeah. And it's like, it's milk. Cocaine reference for like a good 2 minutes at the end. So I kind of faded that in and out so she couldn't hear it. But I do, there is a version out there where I gave her, but she loved it, but.
So she was the grandmother of the clavinet player in Earth, Wind, and Something.
I guess, yeah. She said it was something like that. Now I don't know, but when the singer comes on, it's no doubt it is
Maurice.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes. I mean, to me,
Maurice White.
Yeah.
It was called the Funky Landslide. I can.
Wow! Did you save you a copy of that?
No, because I'm an ethical engineer.
So in other words, you're supposed to. You're not supposed to.
Yes, I'm ethical.
Got you.
Every band I've ever recorded, no one hears anything but me, and I take
that was pretty cool though. That's a pretty cool story.
But that was at Studio Chicago, and I worked there for 5 years, and I worked my way up to the assistant manager where I was helping run in the studio. And it was awesome. We were doing 24-hour sessions. And at that time, that's when you called me and said, hey, can you come record Charlie Louvin at the Graham Parsons thing?
I forgot all about that.
And I had just bought a MacBook with 1 gig of RAM. I just bought a Pro Tools LE system, which we only had 16 tracks. I was like, sure, we'll give it a go. And we did. I mean, we did it. And you saw that.
I'll be dog.
And that record. That was one of his last live records he recorded too.
That is.
He put it out.
Yeah.
It's a big time. I mean, I'm proud as I can be of that.
And that I got to thank you for that one, man.
Now that you reminded me it's you doing it, I'm even more
I remember
proud.
thinking like my MacBook was so hot. I was like, please don't crash, because it was acting funky, but it worked. And
I was getting it mixed up with, I don't know if that was the year, but there was a big bus behind the stage.
That was Leon Russell's bus, wasn't it?
No, that's been before too. But this particular year, there was a recording thing inside that bus.
That was after me.
And that was the year Macintosh.
That had nothing to do with you?
No, that was after me. I was before that. This guy came in.
He got disgusted with me.
Yeah, that was after me. That was someone else.
But that wasn't the same year, was it? Okay.
That was the fall. That was like the fall.
Because I thought that you came with the mobile.
I mean, they had a huge TV screen up there.
Going in
and they had the camera on the stage, and they could watch everything from the stage.
Who were they recording?
I don't remember.
Yeah. Was it Leon Russell?
No,
I don't remember.
No, because Leon Russell came over to my setup. His manager at that time and said, and pulled my cables and said,
Leon Russell was the same year as Charlie Louvin. They were on two different nights.
And Leon Russell's guy pulled my cables and said, make sure I wasn't. He said, you're not recording anything. I said, okay, sure. I'm just here to do Charlie Louvin, really. Yeah. But I still have some recordings.
Okay.
I still have recordings of that year in a bank somewhere. So I have some bands, random bands. But,
that'd be interesting to see.
I wonder who that was, though, Dave. I remember going into that bus.
I'd have to kind of look back.
But
and seeing this.
I do thank you for that gig. And but that was when I was at Studio Chicago. And that was then Kelly my wife got a travel nurse assignment. So we traveled all around the country. And I got to do freelance stuff there. And that was when like digital boards were coming out. So it was fun to see how everybody was doing it across country. And then we ended up in Atlanta, and I put my application in at Doppler Studios in Atlanta. And there was like a 300 applicants. When I put mine on top, they were like, put yours on top. And since I'd interned before, it didn't matter. You have to start again as an intern.
Wow.
And so I did. And it was 300. Like I said, I didn't think I had a shot, and they called me back, and I was like, man, this is great. And then once I got there, we had to go to each studio every day as an intern. You had to mop the floors. You're doing that stuff. But I could, each engineer I would get to see in the morning while I got coffee or whatever, their coffee. And I would say, hey, I'm micing a kick drum tomorrow. You got anything to say? And I would, yes. And I'd go to the next guy, and he would have a different way to do it. So I did this for a while. And then the owner of the studio, part owner, was named Joe Neal. He was Isaac Hayes' engineer, Dionne Warwick's engineer. Anything you heard, he was cutting that before I was even born. He was at the Fox in a Ford van. He was doing live FM transmissions of like Man's for Man, all these guys from the Fox. I mean, he was the guy, and he had so many Grammys. It was just, he was the owner of the studio. And I went to his office one day, and I just sat there and I said, hey, what was your best gig and why? Tell me what, like, give me some glory days, something. And we became friends right then. And he owned a mobile semi truck, and it's called Sam's Tape Truck, because they were still using tape back in the day, but obviously we were using digital. But I was fortunate enough, he had a whole crew, and he needed some help one day. So he called me up, and then that's how I got it. So I was working at Doppler and Sam's Tape Truck at the same time, and we were doing movie. That's probably where you think. Yeah,
I knew that you were working on some kind of truck. So I remembered there was a truck there one year. So I just put the two together. And with the tape truck,
it was, we had 5 people. And that by the end in 2018, when we ended, it was 3. It was just me, another guy, and Joe. And we were like a machine. We had it down, and we did some of the stuff we did. We did a movie in Angola prison with Danny Glover. Got to be in Angola prison for a while. That's a whole thing. We did Taylor Swift at Phillips. We got to do that, and that was fun. Chris Tucker Live at the Fox on Netflix. We got that one, and we actually got credit for that one. My name's in it. One a few times. Sometimes you get your credit, and sometimes you don't. Right. But we did
Tyler Perry.
We did about 10 Tyler Perry DVDs. Medea. If you see Medea DVDs, the Play series, that was us, man. And that stuff was like a band pit. We'd mic up the band. We'd mic up all the actors. Like, it'd be 96 mics, and no rehearsal. They would just say go, and you'd have 2 nights to get it right. And we did in New Orleans, the St. James Theater. We did Medea on the Run, and
all those were live on stage.
Those were live, and you had one chance.
Like comedy shows.
It's like a comedy show concert mix. Because at the end, sometimes the band would jam, because the band was just incredible. But we would be in the truck and have to run our cables into the building, and that's a whole process in itself. And then you throw doing a union state. That's another thing where you're dealing with a union guy has to hold your hand and that's a whole nother bag. But we did some incredible shows. We did a 300-piece Christmas album. It was an orchestra and a choir together in the same room, and a pipe organ. And with a heavy-footed pipe organ, that's going to win. That was winning over everything, believe it or not. So we had to say, but that was about 78 inputs on that one. But we went all over, did a bunch of gospel records like Shirley Caesar and Dottie Peoples, and there was just Grammys. Like before I even got there in the truck, Joe would say, grab something in the back, and there would just be Grammys shoved in a corner. And I was like, hey man, there's a Grammy just rolling around over here. It's like, just shove it in the corner with the other ones. He was like the excitement of it was
chalk the rear tire with it.
Yes. I mean, it was exciting just to do those big things. It's one off. If you don't get it, or if time code is off, it's fun.
And what happened with Doppler?
So in 2018, I was actually the last gig I did there was I was doing Isaac Hayes III. I was his podcast. I was recording his podcast, and in 2018 we were on the book still. And I walked in to get my check, and they were like, the other part, the business manager of it said, "Here's your last check, man. We're sold. Good. That's it." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And they sold Doppler to this guy to be a parking lot. So here's what we did. Me and Joe, and then we ripped everything out and we sold it.
All the trenches.
Everything, the patch bays. You know how much stuff goes into this. We sold it. And and when it was all done and said, the city wouldn't give the guy a permit for a parking garage. And so he said, "You think I can turn this into a studio?" So now if you see, it's called Doppler at Somethin. It's not Doppler. And it's you can bring your own cabling and your own gear and rent the room. So there's 12 of those. It's you can rent it out like that. So that's kind of what's going on now. But the gold records on the wall was before this. When I worked there, those gold records were what we were doing. And the fun thing about working there too is they would never tell me, "Hey, you're working with so-and-so." It was like, "We got a gig at 7 tonight. Can you do it?" And you would go in, and it would be like Michael Bolton doing a Saturday Night Live gig with Andy Samberg on the thing. There was a Jack Sparrow thing we did. Yeah. I would show up and they would say, "Yeah, an engineer's coming. It's a Akon. Akon's coming tonight." And I was like, "Cool." And so I'm sitting there, and then Akon's sitting there, and they're like, "Yeah, our engineer's not coming." "Oh, you're doing it tonight." "Oh, I'm Akon's engineer tonight." So like that, it was just fun things like that. And we did the Squidbilly show. We did that there.
Wow.
And so like the intro was done by some other artist all the time. So like Nico Case and Father John Misty. You recorded all of those? We got to be in the crew with all of them. I was a second on that. But I was setting it all up. And Louis Farrakhan was back in Chicago. That was a whole. Oh, that's right. We recorded Louis Farrakhan's orchestra in Studio Chicago, and that was an experience for sure. It was a cool thing.
And you love doing all the rap.
The rap stuff's great. Yeah. I'll record anything, but back to Doppler stuff. I'll tell you one thing, a good Kenny Rogers one. So the night before this gig, they say, "Hey, Will, Kenny Rogers is coming in tomorrow. We're setting up for a 5-piece band. So you get ready tomorrow." So at 5 a.m. I was there. I mean, I had it set up to record like a 5-piece band. I mean, everything was patched. I was ready to roll. And Kenny Rogers walks in, and then someone else walks in, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm ready to get you going." And they're like, "Oh, this is just a video shoot for Kenny Rogers' book about photographs." And I said, "What?" Wait, what? And they were like, "Yeah, we didn't want you to know because we wanted you to set it up like to make it look like it's a recording session." And I was like, "Oh man, y'all should have gave me a memo on that or something." So we used one overhead mic for something, and it was just for him to sit in the studio like this for 2 minutes. But I did see him and meet him, and but it was, they never would tell me like.
You told me one time, I can't remember the whole story, but it was some pop princess in a swimming pool.
Oh yeah.
What is that? I can't remember.
So I got there was a movie. Some guy at Doppler he got into playback for movies, right? So it's one guy who sits there and they play back any kind of music or sings. So this was a music video. So it was a girl's music video, and I had the track of her song in Pro Tools. And my job was to show up on set with a speaker and play it where she could lip sing to it wherever. And there was 2 locations. One was a park in Atlanta. Okay, that's fine. And the other one was underwater. And I had to get music underwater. Well, I never really thought about it, and so I said, "Sure, I'll do it." And the guy that I was covering for, he's like, "Oh yeah, it's an underwater thing. Don't worry about it, man. You just grab this underwater speaker. You can find them. And so I found one, and it's like it looks terrible, and it sounds like garbage outside of water. But so I rented it, never using it, and I put it in the water, and I put my head in, and it's incredible. The whole pool filled with sound. I was blown away.
Wow.
But they had lights underwater. They had all this electricity going in the water, and I was putting my stuff in the water. And that was the second part of this shoot. And then the director wanted to talk directly to the girl underwater. So like I as an engineer, you're like, okay, I got a 58 with a switch. I'm gonna give that to him. Then I'm gonna pipe it into that speaker. I don't know how good, but it worked, and it went really good. But I was the playback guy. And the other caveat to that is she wanted to do a slow motion lip sync, and you know how that goes. You speed it up double time. Mm-hmm. So she had to lip sync in double time underwater fast, and it was just it was something. It was fun. And I did it. It was great. But it was a whole, and it's on MTV. You can see this video. The girl's name slips my mind, but I need to.
She's no longer with us now. She was electrocuted.
But she was part of the Vampire Diary show. Cat something. That's all I know. But the guy that I filled in for was he laid it out there like, oh, you're just playing back, no worries. And then slowly, when I got closer time, he's like, "Oh yeah, there's an underwater scene." I was like, "Whoa!" Like, you got to really, but
kept getting deeper and deeper, literally.
Yeah.
So that's. I know that there's another local feller that went off to Recording Academy, Charlie Chastain, and one of y'all. I suppose you'd have told us if it had been you. Didn't one of y'all work with Ringo or meet Ringo?
That's probably Charlie. Yeah, I hadn't done that one.
It seemed like that was the story. Maybe maybe it was Paul Lee that met him through Leon Russell gigs or something. I can't remember. Anyhow,
yeah,
but that's pretty awesome, man. You got to rub shoulders with some.
Yeah, well, like
pretty important folks.
There's some of those situations where it's like, you're doing a Chris Tucker thing or something, and you're for that Chris Tucker at the Fox, we did 21 audience mics, and you don't really think about that, audience mics being a thing, but to mix it in surrounds, it's a thing. So you have Chris Tucker has one mic, so we give him a backup. And then we have 21. We have to hang all around the ceiling. And there's times when I'm hanging or I'm under the stage at the Fox, and you're like, how did I get here? And you're like, or you're eating Taylor Swift. At Taylor Swift, when they had a chef that would cook you anything, and so you're in line and you're like, whoa, this is pretty cool. I ended up back here. Should I really be here? Am I confident enough to do this?
And behind that behind scenes at the Fox is a neat place too. We did a wedding there.
Oh yeah.
There's stuff behind the scenes back there that they let us take the bride and groom back.
There's amazing. A plenum. There's a plenum under the seats. Those old plenums, and I had to run it was like a 700-foot.
No, what did you just say?
Plenum, under the seats at the Fox, the way the air conditioning works, there's little bells under the seat. And there's a hole under the seats is a plenum room.
What is a plenum?
It's for air conditioning. Like, it fills up with cool air, and that cool air goes up through those little bells and keeps the whole place.
Yeah. Bells?
It looks like a little bell under the seats. Look at the Fox Theater.
So it's like a little tiny vent,
like a
shaped
vent,
like a bell.
Exactly.
You can look on PBS. They did a documentary of behind.
I think I watched that.
And
already.
For that Chris Tucker thing, we had to run a mic. We ran a hard wire from the stage back because we wanted to have a backup in case his wireless went out. And so it was like 700 foot. And this guy from Fox just opens his little hatch. He's like, and he just, it's like one light bulb on a string just hanging. He's like, good luck, man. And it was like 700 feet. And he said, so I crawled in this thing, and it was cool to be. We went up through a bell to get it up there. That's how we got it up to the balcony. But those are fun things to be in. But yeah, that was my Doppler run. So they sold, and then the tape truck in 2018, Joe Neal, the owner, he passed away. So it kind of went away, and then started.
So what are you doing now?
So I'm mixing and mastering at my home studio. Most people are mostly sending me stuff, and but I'm open to do mobile recording. I like to record in spaces, not studio rooms because I feel like there's magic in certain spaces, and some bands, they really do have a hard time when you isolate. We were talking about this the other day, but when you isolate people in rooms they've never been in, and they got the clock, it can really weigh on some people, and that's not how everybody does it these days. And I'm not knocking that by any means, but there's certain things that happen in rooms and barns, and you can get inspired by being in a place. And I like to capture that place. And it's not always fun because you get buzzes and you got a refrigerator or air condition to deal with, but that makes it, that's part of the.
You came and recorded me in my living room.
Yeah.
That's right. That's me and Sean did that record, and it was one takes, and I think we probably used 4 mics maybe and a room mic or something like that. And I thought it was a honest, super honest, like this is what Sean Clark sounds like in the room. Like I didn't do much to it.
I found a picture of me with the mic when the mic's on me, but I don't think I sent it to Justin. But
yeah, that was I like doing like in the moment type of things. I wouldn't want somebody to say, "Oh, that's Will Thrift's sound." Like I want to be evolving where it's like I've worked with guys who made every band sound like Steely Dan, and there's something to that. There is something to that type of guy. Don't get me wrong, but I also saw that same guy make like a jazz band who wanted not to sound like Steely Dan. They would say, "Excuse me, we'd like our bass drum to be rounder." No, this is my sound, and so. You know, I like to. I'm like on that Phil Spector. Other side of like.
Phil Spector had a sound.
Yes, yes. But also, while we're on it, when I first met you, the first thing you handed me this record, and you said, "Please go listen to this," and I did, and it's an Afghan Whigs record, and I want to say it was 99. 90. I'm going to go ahead and say it's 99 when you loan me this. So I like to return this.
That's crazy.
There's no scratches on it, I promise.
I was wondering whatever happened to this. I didn't remember loaning it to you.
And I do appreciate it. I will say that my choice song on that was "Creep," and that was a great.
Yeah, that's why I bought it.
You got to admit that's a good version of "Creep," right?
And if I only had a heart, I like that.
The
Wizard of Oz.
But you
Creep was the Radiohead song, right?
No, it was TLC.
Creep.
And I creep.
That was that was recorded at Doppler.
Totally different.
What TLC was?
TLC.
Totally
oh, cool.
Well, and that Radiohead song called
Creep.
Okay.
And there's a Stone Temple Pilots song called Creep as well.
Which that was recorded at Southern Tracks, Stone Temple Pilots.
Oh yeah.
But you know Southern Tracks' fate, right? It's a parking garage. Yeah.
Oh, it's Fate.
Fate now, and there's no markers.
Southern Tracks.
Southern Tracks is that was Bill.
That was Bill Lowry. Yeah. That's right, because he passed away. Son and daughter sold the publishing. So the studio is gone too.
They thought Brendan O'Brien was going to buy it.
Right.
He had done a lot of work there, but he was like, "No, I don't want to buy it." And so the city didn't do anything about it. It's a parking garage with no plaque. There's no history.
Man,
and I mean
recorded
Pearl Jam,
in
there. Pearl Jam and Stone Temple Pilots, all those guys.
Did Rodney Mills ever engineer there?
I don't know. You may have.
Elton John, Kansas.
Crazy.
We met when we were up there that day recording. We met the lead singer of Kansas.
Yeah, it's wild that it's not even and the drums the kitchen was a spot to record the drums there. I got to do a record. I was a second engineer on a Walk the Moon record with this guy, Nick Dadia. And Nick Dadia was Brendan O'Brien's audio engineer through all that stuff, the Black Crows and all that stuff. And so it was fun to watch him and kind of pick his brain. And so it was cool to meet him. And I also did a gig, believe it or not, this sounds wild, but it's at the Masters Golf Club. We got called to do a tape truck gig, and they didn't tell us what it was. And we show up, and it's Brendan O'Brien is producing. And so we meet him, and Joe, my boss, knew him. And he's like, "Okay, guys, here's what we got." And so we go into this room, and it's like just a small clubhouse room. He's like, "I want you to mic all this up." And it was Condoleezza Rice on keyboard.
What?
Yeah, in a small room. This sounds, I can't make this up. It's like Condoleezza Rice on keyboard. It was the Wailers, Bob Marley and the Wailers. It was the Wailers, the backup singers over here. So they're over here. Condoleezza Rice is over here. There's a couple of dudes I'm not really sure playing they're like $300,000 guitars, club members out there. And he's like, I want you to mic these guys up and I'll be back. I'm going to go. He went to play golf or do something. Brendan O'Brien did. And he said, I'll be back, guys. Don't worry. So me and my boss were like, what's up? It was just me and my boss, Joe. So he said, do what they say, Will. And so I mic'd all this up. And then Condoleezza Rice comes in and I mic her up. And then the singers, I mic them up. And they're like, okay, we're going to do a cover song. I'm like, all right, we're going to do Sweet Home Alabama.
God,
so I was like, okay. And then so.
What?
So, yeah.
The Wailers, Condoleezza Rice.
I mean, it's. I know.
Playing Sweet Home Alabama.
If I was going to make up something, I totally wouldn't have put those together. And we were at the Masters, and like getting into that club.
Sounds like one of my dreams.
Yeah. And getting into the club, you like it's a whole thing. But it was interesting to be in there, and so they did one take, and they decided it wasn't. They were like, let's go have some mint juleps at something and come back and sure, that'll be better, right? And they did. And then Brennan, so they did it and they left. And Brennan was in the truck with us. And so I got to really talk to Brendan O'Brien, which was, I never thought that's how I would meet the guy. And he just would tell us some fun stuff about recording. And basically what it was every year they do a funny video for the club.
Mm-hmm.
So, they do something for the club to show the club, and this was a short. Ryan Seacrest had to introduce them the day before, and this was a inside. If you were in the club, you could see this video, and so it was just wow. It was just, and they hired Brendan O'Brien to produce it and us to record it, and our, we're like to park the truck is not a cheap fee, so it was. But that was a wild gig. But
I'm telling you,
I thought you could hear that one.
That's the only thing missing was Tiger Woods spitting bars.
Yeah, it was so fun to do that kind of stuff. But
that Southern Tracks was on Claremont Road, and they now prior to that they had another facility back in the '60s. That they used to record at. I can't remember the name of that. Seemed like it might have started with an L.
That's where Rodney Mills got his start. I left that out.
And that Rodney. Was like it was like by a railroad track, and or it's like a schoolhouse or something like that.
Yeah, the bass player.
I remember they talked about recording. What's his name? Billy Joe Royal.
Right.
Down in the boondocks, and they'd get the reverb was like a septic tank pit in the ground, and they had the microphone and the speaker cabinet in there, and they'd send the signal through the speaker cabinet, and it'd echo around in there and come back through the microphone.
That's the way
I think it was a schoolhouse, an old schoolhouse.
I tried to do stairways and stuff.
The Bushman, Rodney Mills, their bass player, he's the one that became the most successful because he was kind of doing their sound for them when they were doing all this. And so at that same studio, he started hanging out, and they would let him teach him things and all. And he ended up doing
what master sound was it?
No, it was LeVar or something like that studio. But anyway, he produced Atlanta Rhythm Section, 38 Special, several of those bands.
Me and Ray
was that the control room that they had? It was like you were in a little ship, like in the middle.
I never did visit that studio.
You know what I'm talking about? It was like a cockpit that you were in.
Yeah.
And I heard that it was not the way the cockpit was shaped, it wasn't very good. Like if you didn't know the room, it was hard to mix in that room. But it was a good concept. How the engineer kind of up in the middle. But
now me and Ray went to Atlanta in early '80s, and we had an appointment with Rodney Mills, and we played him our songs.
I think he's pretty much doing his stuff from home.
I think he's in Fernandina or somewhere down here now.
Yeah,
I think he might be
still doing work from his home. I think
he
did real well. He was the first one to leave the group because he finally decided, you know what, this recording part of it, producing is a lot better,
a lot easier.
So he left. And the story of him for a while in the early Bushmen. He was the bass player and he played with gloves because he lived on a farm. And he volunteered to play bass because when Junior and them came and said, we're going to get this band together, they were cousins of his. And he knew how to play the ukulele, so he said, I'll play the bass. But anyway, he had a little house on the farm, his family farm, that he went into one day and got ready to light a propane heater, and it exploded. It was a faulty heater, and he had severe burns on his hands, and he got a settlement, I think, for it. But for a while, he couldn't play unless he wore gloves because his hands were burned so much.
Yeah.
Wow.
And people thought he was doing it for a gimmick, but it was really because he got
They
burned.
must have had to been real super delicate or something
yeah.
for you to maintain that touch.
Yeah, it was almost
Feel.
like cotton gloves. You know, I think they were white gloves. And anyway, but he did that for a while.
Wow.
That's wild. And he ended up marrying a girl from Alma or Blackshear or somewhere close.
Maybe so. I
Or
know.
I know she was related to Melissa Lee over in Blackshear. I dated her for a couple of times. And I remember her talking about that.
He dated her for a couple of times.
Only two.
And
It was very short lived. You know, it wasn't her fault.
after Harry left the band, Harry Aldridge, you were talking about him. He puts stuff on Facebook all the time, old stories. He married Ronnie Millsap. Married a girl from Douglas.
Married a guy.
Married a girl from Douglas.
Well, he was blind.
and
We'll give him that.
And so Harry went and played bass for Millsap for a while. Yeah, after the band broke up.
Yeah, man. Why don't we, y'all good to keep going, or anybody need a break? Why don't we listen to some gravy and see what y'all have to say about? We got a pile of gravy songs here.
Pile of gravy.
And this is for you folks out here who've never heard gravy.
What do you got that you're going to play there? What is
Well, just listen to the tracks.
Okay.
Gravy
I
was
didn't-
one
I
of the
didn't say
finest
so.
bands to come out of Waycross.
your
You
track
take
one.
that from me and Tim. We're older.
We're gonna tell you
We've
what it
heard
is
a
once
lot of
we hear it.
music and this gravy stuff, man. It's all original stuff. Just
We were coming from
very good take.
all kind of different directions.
Very good take.
This is a She's My Trigger.
Oh, this is?
Yeah.
All right.
That's the title of
I
this
haven't
one.
heard this.
I haven't heard this either. There's Will.
Yeah, man.
Me and you come up with this whole thing.
Yeah.
Me and
Are
you.
you on shaker? Are you shaker?
I'm not doing a shaker. That's probably you.
It's heavy, man.
Yeah, this is.
That sounds like.
That sounds like Led Zeppelin. I'm telling you, you can pinpoint sounds.
Yeah.
See, we were all entertained as we were really into that.
This is very early 90s, this part. Kind of a long intro for.
That's
I haven't
great.
even started singing yet.
Great.
We done played 4 different parts.
It's just garage rock, Chili Peppers.
Yeah, that totally. I mean,
Yes, man, y'all, an original.
yeah, man. Yeah, holds up. I mean, I like.
Yeah, I like that. I've been wanting to hear this song for a while because I couldn't remember how it went.
I told you.
That's Graham Griffin on vocals, Sean on guitar, Will on drums, Jonathan on bass, or Jesse Aaron on bass.
That right there, that guitar, that was me, man.
Who wrote the words?
Graham. One note solo. Jesse's studio.
Yeah, this was on the Yamaha.
Yeah,
We had the
I
Yamaha.
remember
We had
that.
the Yamaha, the one that Paul had.
Okay.
We had that digital recorder at this time. Pretty much, yeah. I mean,
We would say, hey, look, can we do this? How do we do this? How do we make it sound like this or that? But
and he was learning. He was really learning that
Good.
machine too. And we didn't know. I mean, in the studio, we were learning like, we would just turn knobs until something happened. And but Jesse knew way more than any of us. And then I remember we'd take it to you, Dave, and you would say, "Oh yeah, I like what you did here. I like." You would. critique our
I've
stuff.
always loved
And
y'all's this group.
That Rock and
Still
Roll
kick-
101. I don't. Is this Rock and Roll 101?
this is Come On, Eva.
Come on, Eva.
Country.
This is Rockabilly.
See, I think the album would have been these three, Transcendental, Cocaine Cowboy would have been.
That was the new stuff we were working on.
We got to finish it.
Yeah. This changes drastically.
This was a fun one to play.
Yeah. This was me being inspired by John Spencer Blues Explosion, coming up with that riff.
Yeah, you were into them. You guys were really. And the Flame of Lips too. You remember we were kind of like on that softest bullet in.
Oh yeah.
Does Eva sing on this?
Yeah. She does a rap on here, I
She
think.
does a rap on here.
Yeah, that's her singing. We did all this at Jesse's. We did this at that stadium gig.
Okay.
We played this at that.
I don't even remember her doing that, man.
I remember her coming over there that day to do it. And
Great.
we already had our stuff laid down, and she came and did her. Graham wrote all the words. But we played this at that stadium gig.
That's right.
They probably didn't know what to think.
Yeah, they probably were like, what?
Come on, baby. Do it right now.
Hey, do it right now.
Damn.
Now the next one, I don't remember how Rock and Roll 101 goes at all. Do you?
Don't start it yet. Let me. It's Gong, 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 dun, 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 something like
All right,
that.
let's see if you're right on that one.
Here we go.
I don't remember that. I just trying to remember the riff. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
I had the notes wrong, but yeah. That bass. We were carving our own path, man.
It was really.
Coming along good.
Yeah, it was. Remember, it was.
And then somebody broke it up.
And somebody like
It was Paul McCartney.
it was hard. It was hard. Yeah, that's. There's a lot going on. There's a lot happening there.
I love that drum, dude.
That was a hard drum beat to do, man.
There was one song you had the drum. You recorded the drums, and then you went back and did a tom or something.
Yeah. Was that?
She's My Trigger.
She's My Trigger, and then one of those other ones. What did G-Love? That G-Love. What was the song you were playing earlier?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's one of the 114.
Fresh Velvet Lounge.
Fresh Velvet Lounge. Man, this is a lot longer than I remember.
Yeah,
right?
I think we've got.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's anything different going to happen, but
I do think.
Is there a one called Fresh Velvet Lounging on there?
I do think
None
though,
of these tracks are named.
Oh, they're not named.
I think that the record would have been Transcendental. Come on, I mean, She's My Trigger.
Come On Eva was on the first one.
That's right.
And wasn't She's My Trigger on there?
I don't think She's My Trigger was.
No, it wasn't.
And then I think it would have been Rock and Roll #1. I probably would be on there, and then Cocaine Cowboy, which
Yeah.
that's a good. The Return of the Cocaine Cowboy was a song. Graham brought this up last week, and the way this recording happened, I was gonna jog your memory a little bit if you remember, and tell me if I'm wrong because I could have it wrong. But there's a place in Jacksonville called the Anchor Cafe.
You already remember more than I.
Okay,
I just remember
it was like the
Jacksonville.
Anchor Bar. I don't
Yeah,
know how we
Anchor
got into
Bar,
this
yeah.
battle of the bands.
Yeah.
And there was us and two other bands, and the judge for it was Banner Thomas of Molly Hatchet.
Yeah.
He was like the main judge. And so we get there, and were we third? Or we might have been third. The first two bands came on, and like there was a lady doing like her best Stevie Nicks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she was up there, and they were doing they did two.
I can't remember anybody.
They did like two covers, and they did one original that sounded kind of like their version of Fleetwood Mac, which it was okay. And then the second band was like a Blink-182 in that era type of like post. I don't even know how to describe it. It was kind of more of a punk band, but they played 2 or 3 covers and one original. And then it was our turn, and we did all originals. And the last one we did was Return of the Cocaine Cowboy. And before we did it,
So it was a fully fleshed song.
it was a fully fledged song, and it was fresh. And your little tape recorder, Sean's magical tape recorder, was recording the whole show. And that recording was the only recording we ever had. So I'm going to finish the story at the bar. So Banner Thomas comes on, and he's announcing the winner, and he's like, Gravy wins. You guys come back for the championship. And after that was over, do you remember he came to us and he was like, he was just
he was like
talking us up.
talking
He was
us
like,
up.
this song y'all did, Banner Thomas of Molly Hatchet. And so we were like, thank you, man. Thank you. And he was like, can't wait to see y'all in the championship. And we just were like, we're not coming back, right? We just didn't come back. We decided not to.
No, I thought we broke up. That's why
Y'all
We did.
told
We
him
did.
that?
We broke up, but we just said, So we did.
And none of us. Time passed. The tape got lost.
Yeah.
Nobody remembered how to play the song. Like I can't even remember it at all.
I don't remember.
All I remember is the name of it, and there was many parts, and it was a country tinge.
And there was
to it.
no mention of Cowboy in the song.
No.
Like the title, like the changes were the changes were so good in my head.
Nobody else would possibly have a copy of that.
Jesse
right?
would be the only other one, but I do really think that
I
it
think
went home with Graham.
I think we came back with that tape, and Graham, you know, how Graham would always be like, "Let me borrow it. I'll bring it back. Like, he would just insist that he got to listen to it, and then it was gone.
He has it. It's somewhere at his house. If he can
So
just Graham,
your machine
please.
that was recorded on was just a cassette
Just
recorder.
it was a two.
It wasn't a
No, it was just
storage
cassette.
It was
cassette
it
tape.
was the dump off the board, straight off the board. We took a feed.
Would they have recorded it at the competition? Somebody
I'm
in
gonna
like
go ahead and
the
say
judges
I'm
or
gonna go ahead and say it. This was a
mean,
pretty seedy.
No,
this was the Anchor Bar in
Anchor
Jacksonville on a
in
Tuesday night. You know, like my hopes are not. Probably not.
just
I mean, I don't
always
even know if
lost.
we had a sound check. I think they were just like,
Did y'all know that at this time that this was going to be your last gig?
not really. I mean,
Was that the last gig?
No, that wasn't the last gig.
Because we decided to have the last gig, and we did it.
and we did it at the worst place you could possibly play in Waycross. And we rented a room. The worst sounding room in Waycross goes to, and I don't think it's there anymore, the Elks Lodge.
Lodge.
Yep.
The big concrete room that's just
Yeah.
concrete.
Yeah. I did.
Mm-hmm.
Came to the Elks Lodge to see you.
And we split it with
That was
Capital
that
F,
was our
right?
last-
What didn't Capital F play with us? And they opened up, and then it was like, it wasn't a fitting gig for
our
we
last-
should have done a better gig, and we knew it, but we were young, but you know, I'm open to
I
try
don't
it
even know why we
again.
broke up. I think we're just all at each other's throats or
Yeah.
something.
We practiced a lot. We did really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
practice a
y'all
lot.
should have a gravy reunion.
Like, you know, I'm in for it. I'm dusting off my drums, so
That'd be-
let me know.
That'd be wild. Everybody's still around.
Yeah, y'all do 5 new tracks and then put 5 of these tracks on there and make a record.
And then try to see if anybody's got the words to Cocaine Cowboy
That
in a
is just,
notebook somewhere.
I do
can't
remember
tell you any of
remember
it.
the end was just this kind of like an Eagles Jamie, it just flowed, just like a sailing away. It was like a Kansas song or something. You know where it just went.
It was epic. That was it was like Stairway to Heaven.
Graham
The one that got away.
But it was a fun. Speaking of one other thing that Graham brought up, can I rebuttal that one? So
Okay.
so we played at this place, Club Paradise, right? It was used to be Christopher's, I guess, or something. You know, it was right there by KFC
yeah.
where the old library was.
I didn't remember it was called Club Paradise, but
But this guy bought it, and his name was like Najee or something. And Sean, he said, I'll give you like $400 or something like that.
Yeah.
And we were like, we'll pack your place out. And we were very confident. And we did pack it out. It was packed.
It was packed.
And they were selling drinks. It was a good night for the bar.
Yeah.
And then we came back to get paid. And me, you, and Graham went back. And it was you that got up and kind of got up. He was
Really?
Najee. Yeah, Najee was like,
we were trying to remember this, and I don't
so
remember.
Najee was like, we didn't do so hot. You know, he's like, you know, I'm gonna give you guys like $50 or something. And we were like, no. And so like you were negotiating, and me and Graham were there, and they had lights on the stage. And so we were like, okay, well, we were negotiating. We're like, okay, those 4 lights, we'll take those as payment as we were about to unhook the lights and
Really?
take them. Yeah. And then
Or
finally
just floodlights.
Wow,
no,
we were
it was
young
like,
and dumb.
It was like good lights, like it was dancing
Oh,
lights, but we were like,
yeah.
we use those for our show.
Okay.
So me and Graham were like ready to do it, and
Sit back.
then finally you were like, he was like, and he got his checkbook out and wrote it, and we were like, we're not playing you anymore. You remember? It
Yeah.
was, he totally tried to.
I couldn't remember how it went down, but I knew that they didn't
We were-
want to pay us, and I
Yeah.
knew that we were in there like trying to.
Is
Yeah,
that
we
the
were
story?
gonna,
stand
we were going
around?
to take the. We were going to
Is
be
that
like,
the
well,
story you were talking about where you thought that y'all got paid and
Took too much.
then he?
No, that's a different.
Oh,
thing.
that was a different one. Okay.
Took money back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We both 2 people got paid. That was Jody, I think, was with us instead of Will, but
yeah.
we got
that's
paid
it.
twice, and then.
But
we
that
were
was
like,
that was the classic. I forgot my checkbook. I'm gonna pay you boys in change. I didn't sell any
Yeah,
beer.
there's some slick dudes.
We were
and
learning all that stuff. Though.
dudettes.
We were young,
thing
and we're trying to stand our ground as men. And
the thing about Gravy is we learned so much in that band. We learned so much as far as like recording and then dealing with how to book your show, and then pre-internet, how you get flyers out. We'd go to the college and just throw flyers. Remember, me and Sean we were in charge of the throw.
It was always me and you that nobody else wanted to do
PA,
it. We'd make a
everything was me
flyer
and
and go
Sean.
take it out.
Yeah, it was
pass it to people, pass it around.
Like we were in charge of microphones, getting the gear there, and it was we were making the sausage on that. But we learned a lot in that band. And then your house really was I was telling somebody, that house with the window that you just opened. It was like people would just drop by with something at all hours, and
say let's every night was a gig for us there because there was 20 people hanging out listening to us.
Whoever was renting a room, it would be like Conway and somebody renting a room, and they would just come out and say, "Okay, guys, I'm going to bed." And somebody walk in and say, "I'm going to use your oven to cook something or whatever."
I'll be sitting on the couch
People
and I'm
would rent rooms from you.
Yeah.
No, I mean it was roommates.
Okay.
But Conway was roommate. Zach Cardwell. I can't remember if I had.
There was one open room that we put those mattresses on. You remember that time when Mr. Pitts told us we couldn't play, we went to that back room and put mattresses over every window. And that was our new, it was like a purple room. That was like our new practice space.
Yeah.
But that house.
Then we moved over to your house.
Yeah, we were at my house for a while, and that was fun. And then we moved back to Jesse's studio.
Yeah.
And we were there for a while, and that was nice because we had a recorder, and Jesse was.
Yeah, that was. We
really did.
We wouldn't even have that to
totally,
listen to. You know,
that totally was like that was a good learning.
Go to track 14 and go backwards, because I think that there might have been. I might have started on about track. After you played those first three, was that little small CD. Then you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Would that have been the amount of tracks on y'all's release?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just play the last one. We'll see if this sounds like the last song on the album.
That might have been the secret song. What, did we have a secret song?
Y'all did have something that went
just drum
silence.
jam.
It's probably silence for a long time.
This is the days of the hidden track.
Go down to about halfway.
It's probably some
I wonder
some garbage drums that I did.
Was it Honky Soul Soup? Was that this? Because
that's on this record.
But that wasn't the
I think this
track.
was just
what was the hidden track?
We just opened up a mic and just did drum stuff, probably.
Oh yeah.
Is it? We just did all kinds of. I'm gonna say it's probably some pretty bad drums, but wow, is it?
It's hidden.
It's probably the last 10 seconds or something. Yeah, man, you remember a lot more than I do. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah. Okay.
So that was the last track.
Yeah, that was like the hidden.
I think Jesse got better at recording on those last ones too.
Oh yeah,
the ones we listened to a while ago.
Oh yeah, for sure. This was done on ADATs, the old ADAT machines. Remember that?
So you said there was a song in this bunch that may have been a poem in French.
Yeah, there is. An invisible nonfiction, and it's probably going to be, if it's in order, it's somewhere around 10 or 11. I might say 11.
All right, go back to, let's see,
I
this
couldn't remember
would
the name of it too.
Invisible nonfiction.
Close
I still have a shirt that I made. You remember that? I had that girl with the Playboy. The Playboy you had. We X'd out her eyes and we put gravy on her stomach. And I made a shirt that said invisible nonfiction.
Now go down.
It was a prototype.
Right, try that one. That should be number 10.
That it?
Oh, that's
Honky Soul Soup.
no real thing. That's real.
That
thing,
wouldn't be it.
Oh yeah, but this is a good one though.
That's Jesse Lee, right?
Yeah.
Playing harmonica.
This is one of our first songs that we wrote together. And it was your idea to, no, was it?
Oh, the ride it like that?
The riff. about?
I don't know.
Because
You
it was kind of
played
like
the
a
riff.
Lagrange thing or something.
Yeah, you played the riff and we came up with it.
Okay.
Like it was your riff, but we just decided to keep repeating it like that.
This is what we would jam over there at that house.
It was probably the
in my
first. It
house.
was the first thing we really kind of put together.
And I was playing a 12-string that you had.
That's right, that Takamine 12 string. Yes. Is that on the recording?
No, but that's how we wrote it, I think. Maybe it's on there.
I think that sounds.
Yeah, that's it.
This was a fun one to play too, because you could really.
That's the blues.
I was thinking maybe we could have got a sponsorship out of this from Coca-Cola, right?
Yeah.
It's 15 minutes long. I forgot it was 15 minutes.
Yeah, we don't need to listen to all that.
All right, try that. Try the next one.
But the hook was Coca-Cola ain't sweeter than me or something.
Yeah. Did you hear?
Try that
I
and see
did
what
see
it
one with there was a Chris Ryder. He said he stole that from us. That bump 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 bump.
Oh, yeah.
He used that in one of their songs. I thought that was pretty nice. Oh, this is it. Invisible nonfiction.
This is
Zach.
where the poem should be.
Zach's.
This is Zach's poem, but he said there's another
Oh, this is
poem that Graham
Zach in French. Oh,
did. That's that laser gun.
did we just miss Zach in that?
Maybe it's before that.
Yeah, try more.
Track before that.
Maybe.
No, the track before that was the one we just listened to. Would it have been at the end of that track?
I think it was at the beginning.
Was it the
I think it's at the
beginning?
very beginning of this one. If you rewind this one, I think it's barely there. He's like,
Yeah.
wait. It should be right here.
This isn't Invisible Nonfiction. This is
Oh, this is Apocalypse Now. Right?
this is Apocalypse.
Okay, I'm on
Okay,
the
let's
wrong
go
song, sorry.
back to that track. Go back to the far right on the second row. There,
But
start
that was
there
the
and go
laser
backwards.
gun that the Little Knights folks hated.
Yeah,
Right
I would
there.
do that.
That's not it.
That's not it.
Cool sounding stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's all good.
This is
It's one of my favorites here.
Rainy Day.
Love
Rainy Day
Another.
Space.
This
Rainy
ain't
Day
Love
Space
Another.
Groove.
is it?
Rainy Day Space Groove. Nah, this is Rainy Day Space Groove.
I think. That's Jonathan on bass, I think. Right?
Yeah, Jonathan's on. Jesse's
He's on a lot of this album, and then
Je-
Jesse
he's
played on Love Another.
That's right.
Oh, okay. All right, bounce back one. And let's keep going, trying to find that mystery poem.
This is where Zach
This is
Carwell,
What is this?
Invisible Nonfiction.
pas dit ça. Elle a jamais dit ça. Parce que je le sais. On n'est pas dans un monde.
And who is that?
Zach
On
Carwell.
est des frères.
I thought this was one of our. I
love
love
this
playing
one.
this one.
Yeah.
This was a good one to me. I like the way the bass. This is called Invisible Nonfiction. It was like yesterday, man. It really. That was a fun one to play.
That wall pedal.
What's the? Did you have the laser gun before? Was it just sitting at your house somewhere? Or?
What's that?
The laser gun. I don't remember where it came from, but I saw Steve Stevens that played with Billy Idol, Billy Idol's guitar player. he would always do like a toy gun to his pickups, and I was like, I'm gonna do that.
But you do know that you remember that poem, the mystery poem, right? It was
I do
the
remember.
first release.
But I don't know if it's on here.
I thought it was called like La Femme Marquette or something. There was 2 poems.
Try another one. Trying to see if there's. It was something we ended up taking off. This is it.
What?
This is it. The Graham's poem.
Oh.
Moon is the Cheshire Cat's smile tonight. Looks like it's taped to the stars. As I hang in dim hallways onto loose telephones and my shirt she sometimes wore.
We ain't got no beach in
Raw
Waycross.
moans of midnight. The husk of the horn blows cute student song.
Let's twist some knobs here.
When I kiss you, you fall down, crash like tiny waves, and sink into the teeth of sleep.
That's the whole thing.
That's
So
actually,
you do have a first edition copy here, Dave. I have to say
all right.
that was
that's folks. That's actually what the Okefenokee Swamp sounds like at night.
That's what it sounded like
It's
when
like
after you throw a
waves.
cinder block in.
Waves crashing.
Now, where did we get the waves? I'm. Do you remember? Was it that sampler that Jesse had?
Jesse come up with it somehow. I don't know where the sounds came from.
Would y'all have had access to the internet
No.
in the studio back
Oh
then?
no way.
Still not.
You reckon he carried something to the?
There was a brain like a sampler. Remember, it lived in that EQ rack that he had. That did. It had sound effects.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But it was literally turning knobs to like, oh, we like this. Or
What happens if we do
Well,
this?
he was like using effects on every line of the poem. It was a different effect. Just
you know how hard that was
A
to
lot
be
of,
like going at this everybody on faders. You know,
A lot of our arguments was Graham wanting to put effects on every single vocal. We're like, we can't understand you. Like
I couldn't
sometimes-
understand half of the poem. Just
the
then.
double versus the hey, let's double this vocal, and you're like, we've already doubled it, or we've already that was the main.
Well, let's triple it then.
Yep, that's that was classic. That's a first edition, right? Because it made the cut
Yeah.
off of the original. But the Crushed Velvet Lounge, and I think it's
3 or 4.
3 or 4. That might be the next one up. That one, I thought that one that was definitely a G Love influence, but right? You would say that, right? Because we were listening to that. That's one. That's when I did that. The other drum.
Yeah. What kind of drum is that?
It was a piccolo snare just
Piccolo.
turned off. Definitely.
Yeah, boy, that was a dance tune right there.
Would you say the single, what we considered Love Another probably was the single, right?
Yeah, that was our big.
Love Another would had that groove.
And it was
slow groove.
It was on a mini disc. We did that on a mini disc. Remember?
Yeah.
8-track.
There's a band that we know called the Page Brothers from Adel. They're young. They are awesome. One brother's a badass guitar player, and the other one is the deepest singer you ever heard. Well, they've got a song that is the same riff as Love Another, and I haven't been able to play it for them yet.
Go back one.
Man, that I remember it in Athens when I
Which
played.
Page Brothers song you talking about?
It's a new one that they've been
Oh,
writing.
new one, okay.
I remember we took it to Athens and Ty heard it, and then John heard it. John Tonge, they were in Athens. Love Another, and they were like, "This is y'all's summer jam." And they were, so his band, they were kind of listening to that because we were, they were just everybody was seeing what everybody was doing, and that was during his Ty's Skillet days. But that was our we thought that one had a shot.
No, that's not
That's
it.
that's Honky Soul Soup, I think.
It's an instrumental.
That's pretty. That's Drive On.
Drive On. That was a Quentin Tarantino
Yeah.
Pulp Fiction
Unknown
inspired.
Hinson. That could be used for background music on our first comedy routine, or maybe an ad.
Yeah, we should repurpose some of this old stuff. Just
Try the next one.
This is it.
There
This
it
is
is.
the single, yeah, or this is what we consider to be. And this is Jesse on bass. And this was all 8-track mini disc.
I don't know how you remember all that.
Look, I was paying attention to
that's the kind of stuff you would remember if you
Did it
recording
doing
now,
what you're doing.
Yeah.
yes.
Won't you set my lover free? Oh, plaster, 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 a disaster for me.
Talking about plaster because my uncle Conway worked with stucco and tile and stuff.
Had led me to believe.
It was just Graham on vocal on all this. You never did any vocals in that
I
era.
sang some background on a few of them, but not much.
Was you just not interested in it at that point, or you just
Wasn't that good of a singer then. Wasn't that good of a guitar player. Just trying to put all my focus on one thing.
right?
I would sing some backup here and there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, completely like Jonathan and Jesse, they played two. It was nice playing with both of them. They had both two different styles, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
Father, won't you set your daughter free?
I remember being at
I,
a high school party or some kind of party out in Hackle Barney or something and come in. It was like some double wide trailer, everybody, a bunch of kids hanging out, and they were playing this in there like loud as hell. And I was like, felt like a rock star.
We made it.
we made
We
it.
made it. We're rocking the double wide trailer party.
Hackle Barney. The Hackle Barney double wide.
The softest look still maintained.
Well, it was good stuff. All of it.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
it sounds
very,
it
very
sounds
original.
good too. I mean, considering I know the limitations that y'all must have had from a recording standpoint.
And the lack of knowledge of what
Yeah,
we were
we
doing
didn't
about
know.
anything.
We didn't know anything, man.
Because there's people with what I have or more that make shit, you know,
Yeah.
every day.
We were moving through technology without even really realizing it, right?
Right.
I don't know if y'all ever tried to sync up two ADATs, but that's a thing. You got to at least give 30 seconds, you know, to get. You remember those? And so 2 tapes for one song, and so we went from 8-track to 16, and then that Yamaha did it have 24? It might have had 24, and then
think it
that
did.
hard disk recorder, and then that
I've
was
been 16.
hard disk recorder was a
16 or
game
24.
changer, and then that was computer based stuff, you know.
You talking
You can
about
see
the
it.
machine that Paul had that we ended up cutting Newfanglers on?
Yeah,
That
because you
same
didn't
thing?
rate. That's the one that Jesse
Seemed like it
and
was
Ray
only
got
16.
Yamaha.
Seemed like it was only. No, we were a Yamaha dealer, so we probably ordered that straight.
Okay.
That one
So it
probably
wasn't the same board or nothing. It was just a
Not the same board. It was the same kind.
Yeah.
yeah. And then he went to that rolling machine, and then he's on Pro Tools now. Last Jesse was doing, but you couldn't see anything, which I do think that helps. Like when those old hard disk recorders, and even on tape before, you know, you're not looking at anything. You're listening. You're really listening with your ears, and I do think that plays a part. You know, but you know, there's nothing like having a 4-track cassette tape and dumping it all down to one, and then realizing you messed up, you didn't like it, you know. So those Porta Studios. I think did you have a Porta Studio? Like it was like 4-track cassette.
Yeah.
I thought you had one
Yeah.
that we tried to.
I don't remember doing anything spectacular with it or anything, but just writing songs and making demos.
And that was my whole life. In '76, I bought a 4-track, a Kai, reel to reel.
Yep.
And it was this wide and about that tall and heavy as hell.
That's what we did the stuff at the TV studio on.
It was.
Brought it down there and did that.
I used to take that thing on the road with me. And you know, some places we stayed was like 3 flights of stairs. And I'd be toting that thing up the stairs, you know, and then put in my motel room. And I carried my turntable and speakers and
Wow.
and a selection of albums with me too. You know,
This when y'all were on the road with
Eddie Middleton, yeah, because we'd stay at King. There was one time we played the King of the Road for 13 straight weeks,
And y'all
6
played-
nights a week.
Yeah, I was
And
fixing
it
to
was
say y'all
like
played every night.
burn out. We was burned out in March or April. We was ready to hit the road too. Well, folks, once more, we're going to go to the tale of the week from Uncle Dave. That's me.
Before you do that,
Yeah.
I'd just like to say that I appreciate you documenting this kind of stuff. Right before I retired, we got into documenting people's lives, you know, and we call it Tell Us Your Story. I did my grandfather who worked in the swamp right before that, and I did your dad.
Yep.
And I'm going around trying to do all, you know, we had a young man in our church in Waynesville up there that was 40-something years old that had terminal lung cancer, and he was from Scotland. And so we did an interview with him for his 10-year-old son for him to use, to give to his son to tell about growing up in Scotland.
Wow.
And they used part of it at his memorial service. But this kind of thing that y'all are doing here is, you know, documenting things that future generations, you know, and that's the stories need to be told.
Well, we appreciate that, buddy. 'Cause, you know, a lot of times we don't think about anything, you know, we just kind of like, what's for supper, you know?
Yeah, and
Or-
everybody thinks, you know, I don't have anything to say, but everybody's got a story.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
They do.
It's nice
And I
that
still
you
do-
kind of put it into perspective and
I
everything.
still do a little bit of that.
Yeah.
That's about all.
That's
I'm doing
good.
now.
That's good. I know I appreciate that trip y'all made down to cover Daddy's life. That was fun. Now we did two days of shooting on
And,
that.
yeah, and it was funny that you
And
you
him
heard
being about 92
Yeah.
or 93
some
years
stories
old.
that none of us had ever heard came out of
Yeah,
that.
and he was Daddy's still sharp,
Yep, he
very
is.
sharp. No.
But we appreciate it.
Well, y'all been
Yes.
some good guests.
I love that a lot of guests come on and tell stories, and we won't even know that somebody else will come in, and then they've got the other side of it,
Yeah.
and it's like, there's all these connections and
Yeah,
stuff.
there is a lot of that
Like,
going on.
and a
in
lot of
this,
that happened today, you know, with
Yeah.
telling the same stories, but like you remember stuff different or more stuff, and it's just like you get more facts to put into the to the puzzle, you know.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right.
Well, here's a story you ain't heard yet. This is Tale of the Week, talking about Mike the Monkey, Jimmy the Man, and a secretary's best friend. Bet Claire McMurray was born on March 23rd, 1924 in Dallas, Texas. She was raised up in San Antonio, graduating high school from Alamo Heights. Just before he left to fight in World War II, Warren Nesmith made Bet his bride, and she gave them a baby boy, delivered while he was still overseas. After Warren returned from the war, they were divorced in 1946. Bet's father passed away in the early 50s, leaving her some property in Dallas. Along with her mother, sister, and son, Bet moved to Dallas and found work as a secretary at Texas Bank and Trust. She quickly rose to the position of executive secretary, but still in need of extra money, Bet used her artistic talents in painting the holiday windows at the bank. She took her knowledge of paints and applied it to the office environment. Back in those days, it was extremely difficult to erase mistakes made on early electric typewriters. So, Bet mixed some tempera water-based paint in a bottle, shook it up, took the solution along with her watercolor brush to work, and used it to paint over her typing errors. Bet used her white correction paint for 5 years, making improvements on it with the help of her son Michael's chemistry teacher at Thomas Jefferson High School in Dallas. She began selling her invention in 1956, calling it Mistake Out. The name was changed to Liquid Paper when she formed her own company and began operating out of the family home. As the product was realizing more and more popularity, she moved the company's production and shipping operation from the kitchen to a small metal building in the backyard. In 1979, she sold Liquid Paper to the Gillette Corporation for $47.5 million. Hey, wow. How do you like me now? Sadly, she passed away the very next year at the age of 56 in 1980. Leaving her only son, Michael, half of her $50 million estate. But before he became a millionaire, Michael was a lot like anyone else born in 1942. He was an indifferent student, a writer of verse poetry, preferring music and arts to the core curriculum. Dropping out of high school, he enlisted in the Air Force in 1960, obtained his GED and an honorable discharge 2 years later. Michael's mother and stepfather gave him a guitar that Christmas, and as he learned to play, he started putting his poems to song. In 1963, he moved to Los Angeles to pursue his songwriting and singing career, landing at the famed Troubadour nightclub, performing and acting as hootmaster for their Monday night folk music hootenannies. It was at the Troubadour that Michael befriended Barry Friedman, an associate of Buffalo Springfield and the Byrds. Friedman showed him a press advertisement from the Hollywood Reporter seeking folk and rock musicians, singers for acting roles in new TV series. Over 400 hopefuls, among them Stephen Stills, tried out to be one of 4 insane boys in a fictional rock and roll band. 14 young men were brought back for screen tests, and the final 4 were selected. Robert Michael Nesmith was one of them. The other 3 were Mickey Dolenz, Davy Jones, and Peter Tork, and together they were the Monkees. It was campy TV fare, to be sure, but at that time I was only 13, and I watched the show every week. The theme from the Monkees was catchy, written by Tommy Boyce and Bobby Hart, a prolific songwriting duo of the time, and loosely based on the Dave Clark 5 song, Catch Us If You Can. The Monkees had chart hits on the radio and album sales that pushed their debut album straight to #1 for 13 weeks. I recall visiting my cousin, Tim Thrift, in Gainesville, Florida during the Christmas holidays of 1966 and listening over and over to his copy of their first album. The Monkees, called the Prefab Four by their critics, embarked on a concert tour during the summer of '67. And remarkably, Jimi Hendrix opened 8 of their shows, one being July 8th at the Jacksonville Coliseum in Jacksonville, Florida. Now, you were at that, too.
I was at that.
Yeah.
Will got that poster for me.
Yeah.
For my birthday.
Wow.
A crowd full of female teeny boppers with parents in tow were shocked out of their Bible belts that evening when the Jimi Hendrix Experience led off with a set of sexually charged, drug-induced music that predated Hendrix's rise to stardom. My good friends and fellow bandmates for years, John and Bill Smith, were there and returned home tuned in and turned on musically, never looking back. Another friend, childhood buddy and next-door neighbor James Cock, was there on a double date with his older brother and had this to say in his recently published book, Cocktails, Memoirs of a Redneck Hippie. Quote, when we were in the Jacksonville Coliseum with about 16,000 other young fans, I was all eyes and ears. There was a warm-up band consisting of this black singer on stage with two other musicians, a drummer and a bass player. The guitarist could really smoke that Fender guitar, but this was the era just before psychedelic rock. He played and played, but no one seemed to pay attention. I certainly was impressed, but not many others were. They were waiting to hear the Monkees. He said, hey, Jacksonville, I'll be back next year, and you'll have to stand in line to buy a ticket. This led to many boos. This led to many boos as he left the stage. But he was right. In a year's time, psychedelic rock had a firm toehold, and he was its ringleader. The shelf life of the Monkees TV show was only about a year and a half, but Nesmith was determined to continue making music. In 1970, he put together Michael Nesmith and the First National Band, considered by some as a pioneering sound in the early country rock movement. Their second single, Joanne, was a moderate hit with a very folky influence, including the talents of session musicians O.J. Red Rhodes on pedal steel guitar and Earl Poole Ball on piano. Nesmith also dabbled in music video production during the dawn of MTV. In 1983, he produced the video for Lionel Richie's All Night Long and Michael Jackson's The Way You Make Me Feel in 1987. His songs were well recognized by other artists, including Linda Ronstadt, who recorded his original Different Drum, her first hit single in 1967, reaching number 1 in the Los Angeles market and number 13 across the country. To this day, he's known as an American musician, songwriter, actor, producer, novelist, businessman, and philanthropist. But he will forever be best remembered as Mike, the monkey underneath the wool hat. Oops. I meant cap. Where's my whiteout?
Yeah, I think old Jimi Hendrix only played about 2 or 3 shows with him, and then they got somebody else.
I think so. I think that was kind of like this guy's upstaging the headliners.
Yeah.
Didn't you wasn't it a free bus ride you got?
I did. My dad entered a contest at down there it was called Frisch's. It's the same thing as Shoney's.
Y'all were in Gainesville.
Yeah, to win a ticket to go see the Monkees. And he won it. And it was a free bus ride from the restaurant to the Coliseum and ticket in to watch them and then free bus ride.
So there was several more winners and they all piled on the bus from Gainesville.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah, that was good.
How about that? You had no idea that, well, you probably didn't even know John and Bill then.
No, but
you would have known.
Oh, yeah, I knew
James.
Yeah, I knew James for sure.
Y'all were all at the same show.
Yep.
Didn't even know it.
Yep. And then Will, just a couple of years ago, found that poster on and got it for me, and I've got it hanging in my studio at home.
I couldn't imagine. Could you imagine? I mean, imagine getting melted away by
Jimmy.
Yeah, that was the
Hendrix.
blindsided.
That was the good thing about growing up in Gainesville.
What is that?
You know, with the University of Florida there, we had so many good bands come through there.
Y'all probably got a lot of action.
Yeah, right after Woodstock, they did a big thing in the football stadium there that had Sly and the Family Stone, Grand Funk Railroad, Great Speckled Bird, Donovan, all on one big festival day. It was good.
Well, we didn't get that in well, we did have that bicentennial
That canned heat.
canned heat concert
That
in
would
the
have been.
Memorial Stadium.
Were they
was pretty
jamming?
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. Canned Heat was the headliners,
They were
and
on the
then
way to
everybody
Jacksonville,
before that, for the most part, was local and regional bands.
Yeah.
Ken Heat was on their way down.
They were going to Jacksonville, I think, to play a show, and they stopped for it, didn't they?
And that would have been 5 years after Woodstock, I guess.
Wow.
So they were well known and well received.
Nice.
But we used to go to, seemed like every weekend we'd drive down to Jacksonville to the Coliseum for a concert. You know, it seemed like so many. I know I went to so many back in those early 70s.
Yep.
I was going in the early 90s or middle 90s.
I said I went. My first concert was at Jacksonville Coliseum in the middle '90s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What was it?
There was Smashing Pumpkins,
Wow.
Siamese Dream.
I never got to see like I loved them back then, and I never got to see them. I
Who
tried
was
to go
your
see them. First band I saw?
First concert?
It's pretty funny, but I won tickets at the mall, at the Hatcher Point Mall. They were having some kind of Jeopardy game, like it was Wheel of Fortune or something. Anyway, I won tickets to see the headliner, David Lee Roth, Poison, and Tesla was the first band. Yep.
Was that in Jacksonville?
No, that was actually in Savannah. I'm sorry.
What was your first?
My first one in Jacksonville
concert?
or my first concert?
My very first one was
concert.
probably that Monkee. I think I was 13.
Yeah,
I
you
think
would
I was
have to be.
13.
Dang, man.
Great start, huh? Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, Jimi Hendrix.
It was all downhill from there.
I think you'll win. My first one was in Atlanta at the Municipal Coliseum up there, and it was James Gang. Mylon Lefevre, and Smooth Barn Dance was the third group. 1971. That was my first big concert. It was a good. And Leon Russell had played the night before.
I knew James Gang. I hadn't heard of the other two.
Yeah, Mylon Lefevre was actually.
Yeah, I've heard him.
He was the original bass player for the Singing Lefevres that used to come on the gospel Sunday morning
And
gospel
James Gang
shows.
was Joe Walsh.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, boy.
That's a monster.
Well, we sure do appreciate y'all coming on here
Yes,
and,
thanks, man.
with your
We
good
appreciate
stories and
Y'all have to come back. I feel like y'all got another good 2-3 hours.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we appreciate your kind compliments too on what we're striving for here. And we appreciate y'all watching.
Yes.
Yep.
Hurry back next time, and y'all make sure you check out our Patreon podcasts over there on Patreon. That's only $5 a month, and you can get some real in-depth episodes.
The deep end.
On the deep end. And we do have a email address, somethininthewaterpodcast@gmail.com, that you can communicate with us if you got something. Yes. If you got something you want to say or
Something in the water at Gmail was taken.
yeah. We could call it SITW. But we appreciate y'all, and we'll see you next time.